Happy Thanksgiving, Buckeye fans, wherever you are. I hope you, your family, your friends are having a fun, safe time, giving thanks and being thankful for the time you're spending together and the lives you are living. Today, it's a crossover Thursday. Isaiah Hole from Locked On Wolverines is with us to give us the preview you have been waiting for the game this weekend. Sit back, relax, enjoy this fun, information-filled preview for the game against the Wolverines.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is almost here. The giant week of football is upon us, and that means that we are doubling up. That's right. Locked On Wolverines podcast, Locked On Buckeyes podcast. You've got me, Isaiah Hole, man on the ground here in Ann Arbor. You've got Jay Stevens over there, the host of the Locked On Buckeyes podcast. Very excited to have you, Jay, for us to do this together, to talk about the game. Because, I mean, it's the biggest thing going in college football. I don't think that that's something that we could have said or Rob probably would have said at the outset of the season, right?
No, you wouldn't have said that, wouldn't have thought that, but it is the biggest game. There's a lot of intriguing things going on with the game, a lot of things in the future that are held in this game as far as postseason, Big Ten East champion, possibly playing in Indianapolis the next week. A lot riding on this game as far as the future, but also bragging rights. And that's what we all love. We all love this time of year. We love Thanksgiving, but we know on that Saturday, it's the game against the Wolverines and the Buckeyes we all love, and we can't wait for it.
Now, you mentioned one thing that I think is interesting when it comes to this one. It's that it is for the Big Ten East Division champ, rights to go to Indianapolis, college football playoff at risk here. Only once. I know it doesn't seem like it per se, but only once since we've had the Big Ten championship game, since we've had the college football playoff, has it been a situation where this game has come down to it. And that was 2018. You'd think 2016, but Penn State had beaten Ohio State that year, which made it so that it was Michigan's to lose. Ohio State was just hoping with a win that certainly they could advance to the college football playoff, which they did. So a lot more at stake. And another thing that really interests me in this game is that this is the first time in memory that there's been a game of this magnitude between these two teams in Ann Arbor. With that in mind, how do you feel about the matchup in the sense of, the last couple times it's been a huge game, two top five teams, it's been in Columbus, it's been at the Shoe, now it's at the Big House. Is there any concern on your end for how Ohio State will play on the road? What have you seen from the Buckeyes this year, difference between playing in the Horseshoe compared to playing on the road?
They've had struggles at times, both at home and on the road. You think about the Tulsa game, that was in Columbus. Think about the Penn State game, that was in Columbus. You go back to the game number 1 against Minnesota, that's on the road. You go first weekend in November, the game against Nebraska, that's on the road. So there was tricky things about the at home versus away that I think that there could be a problem with the Wolverines team with what they bring to the table, no matter if it's in Columbus or Ann Arbor, because Ohio State has struggled at times against both of those on the road and at home. So I know it's a top 5 matchup, a lot of holding on to it, but I do think there are certain things with this Ohio State team, doesn't matter if they're at home or on the road, they have struggled with those things at portions of the season. They've turned things around lately. I don't know if they can have the same success they had last week against Michigan State. It's possible, but road, home, there are certain things that trick up this team no matter where they are playing the football.
Well, I think another interesting thing with this particular game, and I think no one is shying away from this being the biggest part, is Ohio State's offense versus the Michigan defense. I know in Ann Arbor there's some trepidation, right? Because there's the last 2 times that Michigan's played Ohio State has come in with a top-ranked defense, and it's gotten shredded. But since then, Michigan has changed its defensive coordinator, its scheme. moving away from Don Brown being primarily in man coverage and going to something that's a bit different with Mike Macdonald, who brings, as Ryan Day even pointed out, more of an NFL-oriented style defense. Ryan Day does not have the beat on Don Brown the same way he does Mike Macdonald, because keeping in mind the two of them before Don Brown and Ryan Day were together in Boston College, I could also say with some pretty good authority that he had a pretty good idea of what Michigan's play calls were going to be on a down-by-down basis. That certainly didn't help Michigan, but you still have to execute if you're Michigan. Lots of lack of faith when it comes to I shouldn't say lack of faith. I think there's a mixture when it comes to Michigan fans and the way that they look at this game. Some say we've fixed the glitch, so to speak. And then there's the other part that says our pass coverage is not as good as it's ranked. I've seen the other things out there saying that Michigan's defense is only beat up on bad offenses. I think the same thing could also be said of Ohio State's offense, pretty much. So when you look at this matchup, what are you looking to see? I'll give me the good and the bad on the Buckeyes side, because it looks very daunting from a Michigan side of things. The defense did a really good job against Jahan Dotson a couple weeks ago, but that's just one guy. Ohio State has three of those guys. So what do you think?
I think that what you bring up about Jahan Dotson is a very good thing. Buckeye fans will say, well, Ohio State has weapons, and I will say Ohio State has weapons that they're not utilizing. Everyone knows about Jackson Smith and Jigba, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. Chris Olave broke David Boston's record for career receiving touchdowns as an Ohio State Buckeye receiver or player last week. But there's also a guy in TreVeyon Henderson, then Jeremy Ruckert, the tight end in Ruckert, running back in Henderson, that they're utilized sparingly, kind of sprinkle it in every now and then in the passing game. And this is the kind of game where you want to take advantage of every single weapon that you have. Throw everything out there that you have not utilized yet this season. And those are two guys in a passing game that can be utilized in a big way. The one thing I'm watching myself, Isaiah, is the offensive line. Everyone knows that if you get C.J. Stroud off of his spot or get him rolling out, he's not as accurate of a passer. But also, that's almost every quarterback. If you get him on the run, they're not as comfortable and accurate as they are if they're inside the pocket. And so I wonder if how the offensive line, they've rotated 6 guys. I've had my own criticisms of that coaching move, but you've only lost one game. They may know something that I don't know yet this season. However, I'm watching up front because I think it all starts up front. If Michigan can get a pass rush, a consistent pass rush, and if that pass rush, even if you don't get to the quarterback, but you're getting him off of his spot and getting him off schedule, that's going to be a win most of the time for the Wolverines, because Stroud's going to be on the run, and you get any quarterback on the run, it's not good. Add in the pressure that is going to be in the big house on Saturday. That's a thing that, no matter if you're a seasoned quarterback or playing your first game, your first time in this rivalry, that's nothing you want to happen while you're on the field. So we can talk all about the outside. To me, it all starts up front. Can the Ohio State offensive line slow down or even stop, which is a big ask, the pass rush of the Wolverines?
And that, like you said, that is a big ask. Granted, I've seen that happen, 2018. Dwayne Haskins certainly had his time against what was thought to be one of the best pass rushes in the nation in Rashawn Gary and Chase Winovich. Kind of a similar situation for the Wolverines this year, although I think it might be even better because you've got Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo. They've combined for 20 sacks, 10 apiece. They've really come into their own. Aiden Hutchinson not getting a lot of love when it comes to some of the awards out there, weirdly. I can't remember the Bednarik Award, did not make that Final Four, but many will tell you he's the best defensive end out there right now. He's slated to be the number 2 guy off the board in the NFL draft behind Kayvon Thibodeau, and we'll see how that goes. But I mean, he's the leader of the team, really, from an emotional standpoint as well as a production one. Team captain, his dad. That was his little fun fact that I learned today on the ESPN Game Day Zoom call. His dad, Chris Hutchinson, who had 11 sacks, Chris' son, Aiden, is going to be trying to tie or surpass that here. His final sack as a Wolverine was against Kirk Herbstreit. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic there. But He's vying for All-American status. He comes out and says last night, we're not going to go out there and play scared. I've watched film. It seems like other defenses play Ohio State scared. We are not going to do that. They're certainly not bowing down. And that's an interesting thing between Cade McNamara's comments on the Inside Michigan Football radio show saying we're not that concerned about the defense. Granted, he wasn't saying that he's not concerned about the defense from a perspective of they're trash. We don't like them. So whatever. He's saying it because he's saying if as long as we run our offense, then we should be fine. But that's the big matchup. You absolutely have it nailed. Is Michigan going to be able to get home, get CJ Stroud off his spot? Nebraska did it. Penn State did it. Michigan has a defense that's certainly rated better than either of those teams. So you would think, but weird things happen in this game. We've seen people step up on either side, throughout the years, whether it's a Tim Biaka-Batuka, whether it's a Dwayne Haskins, whether it's J.K. Dobbins. It just seems like there's always someone who steps up in this game. So that said, I'm curious as well to see how the Ohio State defense handles the Michigan offense, which really seems to be like it's coming into its stride. There's a kind of a misnomer when it comes to Michigan's offense that they can't throw the ball. It's not that they can't. They generally just don't because they've got the running attack that really works really well at the outset of the season. And then when they started playing teams like Wisconsin, Michigan State, they started opening up the passing game, knowing that they absolutely needed to. Ohio State, very good at stopping the run now after some opening season jitters as far as that's concerned. But the pass game, 99th pass defense in the country. What's your level of confidence / concern? Michigan doesn't have a so-called go-to receiver. Instead, they tend to have a new person featured every week. How much do you feel that when you look at the mixture of Michigan's pass game and what has been a vaunted running attack all year, what's your level of confidence / concern as far as that goes?
The concern for the passing game itself has been up and down all season. And even lately, I can't really put much stock into what we saw against Michigan State because it got out of hand very quickly. I can read a little bit into what happened against Purdue. I also understand Aiden O'Connell is a better quarterback than I think a lot of people thought he was 6 weeks ago. And so I have to try to grade these things properly and keep them in their proper context. If it's just a rushing attack to where the Michigan Wolverines rushing game versus Ohio State's rush defense, I think Ohio State's fine. I'm not even. I know that it's Corum playing. I know Corum had a little injury that he was dealing with. Is he playing in this game?
I would say that there's a very strong chance. He dressed for Maryland, didn't play. I was told before the game that was by design, that he wasn't going to play, that they wanted to rest him up, but he was available if they absolutely needed him.
Okay. Now it's a good. I know a lot of people were wondering that. Myself was as well. If Corum and Haskins, even if Corum's on the field, if he's a decoy, if he's healthy, I still think Ohio State's rush defense is fine. I think they have a lot better linebacker play. The interior, the D-line has played a whole lot better. Tyreek Smith, defensive end, is coming to his own. And so I do think the rush defense is fine. The one thing I'm curious about is that if McNamara utilizes the play-action pass properly, and if what's his face? JJ McCarthy, if Harbaugh dials up the right types of plays when he's in there, that can get a little dicey because Ohio State's free safety sometimes bites on the run. And that's, I know, in this game, in key moments, you can't allow those things to come down. I know you want to play in the run and be very heavy in that part of the game. But remember, you got the deep part of the field, buddy. And so I'm curious, and I'm watching the free safety position because play action pass has gotten him previously. I have a feeling at least one time it'll get him in this game. I don't know if it'll be a touchdown. I think it'll be a big gain. So that's the one thing I'm more worried about with the passing game is the deep third, the ability to maneuver the eyes of the free safety pre-snap, and then with play action, that's something that I'm watching heavily.
All right, we have to do a little bill paying here real fast because nearly forgot because it was just so already in it, right? Because we're in the game. You've got your red hat. I've got I normally don't wear Michigan gear, but Valiant was so kind to provide me with this hoodie. So anyhow, College football fanatics, if you heard about PrizePicks, because PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. I love this. I know you will too. PrizePicks is a leader in college sports daily fantasy. PrizePicks offers more college football props than anyone in the world and offers all the star players of the Power Five as well as the mid-major players you might not have ever even heard of. PrizePicks offers any prop you can think of, from yardage to touchdowns, even interceptions thrown. You can make your deposit using the promo code Locked On. You'll receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. You can pick 2 to 5 players and over-under on the projections. You'll win up to 10 times on any entry. It's just you versus the projected numbers. PrizePicks also allows mixed sport entries. You can take the over on Patrick Mahomes, the under on LeBron. That's my way of getting back at LeBron for what happened in Detroit a couple of days ago. But you could use the award-winning app on both the Apple App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It is that easy. PrizePicks is safe, offers fast withdrawals, so don't hesitate. Check out PrizePicks.com. Use the promo code Locked On, or go to your app store. Download the app today. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy.
Yeah, that whole thing in Detroit was not fun at all. I was a little taken back by what happened there.
Yeah, I only saw snippets. I don't really bother with the whole NBA of it all, since the Pistons have been awful for my best friend loves to bring up. It's like there was a little shorter gap between the bad boys Pistons and the going to work Pistons and their dominance than it is from going to work till now. And it's like, I cannot believe the Pistons have been this bad for this long. So I just have not cared. But who cares about that this week anyway? Who cares about NBA? Who cares about NFL? I don't even tomorrow. I want to watch the Egg Bowl, right? I know my family's going to want to put on whatever the NFL game is. And it's like, no, we've got enough. I'm all in when it comes to rivalry stuff right now. Mm-hmm. And of course, when it comes to Michigan, Ohio State, that's that tops it all. And I think it's great that this is getting center stage again, because even though Michigan has not held up its bargain now for about 20 years, this is something that it's still a giant, meaningful rivalry, right? Like you see, I don't know what player it was, but stomping on what looked like a very outdated number 9 jersey. You had a lot of the uproar over the Cade McNamara comments. I'm assuming that we're going to see a very heated battle when it comes to this game on the field. So let me ask you this from an Ohio State perspective. What are your biggest concerns going into this game? Because a lot of Ohio State people will say that they think that Michigan will lose by, a lot of them say, all right, Ryan Day said we're going to hang 100 on them a year ago, and that game didn't happen. I'm seeing a lot of predictions of like Ohio State by 30, that type of thing. I feel like you probably are a little bit more even keeled with this. So what are your biggest concerns about this particular matchup?
Ohio State not getting off to a fast start. We have seen this year and even the past couple of weeks when Ohio State's winning big, Purdue game, Michigan State, and there's even games previously where they've gotten off to a big start. They've been fine. When they don't get off to a big start, say Penn State, say Nebraska, and I have been a person, Isaiah, I don't know how you feel about the Cornhuskers. Going into that game, that was the most nervous I have been about any game this year because of that Nebraska defense, the linebackers. I mean, those are really good players. Just it's unfortunate that they can't close out games and win.
It's the best 3-8 team in the country, really. I mean, they've lost every game that they've lost. They certainly could have won.
Yeah, and I was nervous about that game. And so with this game, to me, I try to be as simple as possible. I don't try to overthink things. I can look at the numbers and describe how things might go that way. But to me, Ohio State needs to get off to a fast start and sustain said start. Now, a 14-0 lead and then Michigan coming back and tying it at 14-14, that's very possible. But getting off to a fast start and then sustaining said start is very, very big. And I know it can happen. I just wonder what wrinkles Michigan and Ohio State will have up front in the trenches and in the defensive line for the Wolverines, that is. D-line, Michigan, O-line, Ohio State, and pass pro and in the running game, what wrinkles we'll see throughout the game. Because I can't get off of that matchup. That's where things are going to be won and lost at this game. Yes, Ohio State's D-line is good. There will be a tough test against the Wolverines. If Ohio State does not slow down the pass rush or the front seven in the running game when Ohio State's running the ball, it's going to be a long, long game. That's the thing I'm watching. I believe Ohio State can get off to a fast start. I just wonder if they'll be able to sustain said start because I have a feeling Harbaugh's going to pull out some type of trick or 2 or 3 throughout this one because nobody wants to lose every time they play their rival, especially a guy that's played in Ann Arbor that was a Wolverine, that still is a Wolverine. Nobody wants to lose every single time you play, and he knows himself. You got to throw everything at Ohio State this year because if you don't, the game could be over shortly after it starts.
Yeah, I totally agree. And obviously for me, the biggest concern is what if those defensive ends don't get home? I certainly think that you're going to see different blitz packages anyway. But I think the biggest fear just in general that anyone in this area would have is just seeing those 3 receivers running wild all over the pass defense. That said, this will be the best pass defense on paper that Ohio State will have seen all season. Maybe not on paper. The defensive front is certainly also going to be the best defensive front that they've seen all season. My concern on that side of the ball also remains TreVeyon Henderson. This is from me covering recruiting. Here's something that you may not have known, and I find really interesting, especially since Donovan Edwards played such a key part in Michigan's win over Maryland this last week with 170 yards going through the air. Ohio State wanted Donovan Edwards more than anybody. They felt that he was their J.K. Dobbins 2.0. They were telling him that they felt that he could come in and start right away, just like TreVeyon Henderson essentially has. They thought that, all right, if we can get this guy, he's going to be our bell cow. Michigan wanted TreVeyon Henderson in the worst way and slow played Donovan Edwards. So each team has the running back that they didn't want as much as the other one did, which is kind of an interesting dynamic. But I digress. I think that the other fear, because we've seen Michigan essentially sell out against the pass, and sometimes it's hurt them in the run game. We saw it against Michigan State, Kenneth Walker, and what he was able to do. Certainly, Michigan State did not, because everyone's big fear going into that game was Peyton Thorne, Jaden Reed, Jalen Naylor that's going to be the big thing. How is Michigan going to slow them down? No one really had that much concern about Kenneth Walker because we had seen that Nebraska and Indiana had slowed him down. Then he comes in and gets 5 touchdowns. So there's a concern there. Jim Harbaugh said on Monday that blocking and tackling were the biggest focuses this week. That's the whole point of the Beat Ohio drill, which is newly implemented for Michigan. The other side of the ball, my big concern is what if Michigan can't run against Ohio State? Michigan hasn't had an issue really, even against Wisconsin. They weren't really trying to run the ball a lot. They were trying to keep Wisconsin honest, and especially because Michigan really wanted to pass. Michigan wanted to go off play action, things of that nature. They still managed to get over 100 yards against that tough Badgers front. I do feel somewhat good about Michigan's offensive chances, strictly based off the fact that Wisconsin has the number 1 defense in the country. Others will argue Georgia. I understand Georgia has more playmakers, but on paper, Wisconsin is right there. And Michigan's offense was still able to move the ball. But if it becomes a track meet, if it becomes a situation where, like the last 2 times we've seen these 2 teams match up, the defense can't get off the field for Michigan, then you end up in a shootout. I don't think Michigan can win that type of game. I think that's exactly the type of game that Ohio State wants to make it. So it'll be interesting to see how these 2 teams. I go back and forth. I don't know about you, but all week I have 1 minute where I'm like, you know what? I think Michigan's actually going to pull off the upset. And the next minute I'm like, I think Michigan's going to lose by 20. It's just, I'm back and forth because Ohio State, let's face it, is the better team on paper. It certainly is, but games are not played on paper. So it'll be interesting to see how this all goes. So, all right, let's move on, and then we'll give our final thoughts here in just a moment. I got to tell you a little something about BetOnline.ag. It's Thanksgiving. We all know what that means. Football, nothing better than football, turkey, and betting. BetOnline has you covered for all the holiday season, more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number 1 spot for all the sports action this Thanksgiving. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today. Receive that 50% welcome bonus using the promo code Locked On. And it's not just football, by the way. BetOnline also has pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, even your favorite Vegas casino game. So don't wait to take advantage of all of the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, we're stuffed with deals this Thanksgiving. Also want to tell you about Built Bar. I don't need to read anything to tell you about Built Bar, because here's the thing about Built Bar. I am personally a giant fan. I have bought dozens and dozens of boxes with my own money, of my own volition. I have 2 upstairs, the coconut brownie chunk, the peanut butter brownie. They just sent us a few more. I don't know if you've received them, Jay, but the ruby, I think it's called like ruby chocolate puff or something like that, is
I've not tried that yet.
Out of this world. It is absolutely out of this world. Also, the caramel almond one is just fantastic. There's another one in there I haven't tried yet because I had to have both of those ones again after trying them the first time. So the thing about Built Bar is, if you don't know, it's a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. It's high protein, low calorie, low carb. I can be an absolute glutton and have 2 at a time, and it's still lower in calories and carbs and higher in protein than going out and getting a Metrics Big 100. Like I said, I have bought dozens, at least 2 dozen, if not more, boxes of Built Bar over the last year and a half. So take the plunge with me. Go to built.com, put in promo code LOCKED15, get 15% off your next order. That's built.com, promo code LOCKED15. All right, Jay. So now that we've talked about the concerns that we have, let's finish out by let's talk about where we're most confident that of what the things that you think are for sure going to happen in this game. I don't know that I have a ton personally. I'm in such wait and see mode here because Ohio State, like we've seen, has owned Michigan the last 2 times that they've played. The 2 times before that were close affairs. But what are you most confident about going into the game?
Most confident, probably the defensive ends, or excuse me, the pass rush of Ohio State getting at least 3 sacks. Maybe a weird number. Maybe Buckeye fans may say, well, you could probably get 5. I think 3 in this game are going to be huge. They're going to be well-timed. Well, the times that they're going to come, they'll be huge. And I do think that Tyreek Smith, defensive end, opposite of Zach Harrison, who gets all the publicity due to the recruiting rankings, 5-star, blah, 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 blah. I don't really care. That's high school. I'm not really – I get recruiting, but you got to perform for me in some type of way when you get on the field. Harrison performs, but Tyreek Smith has been a game changer, a difference maker when he's on the field. And it's not just in the running game; it's also in the passing game. Now, the attention the offensive lines give him, they do help Harrison. They do help some of the freshmen. They do help other guys that are seasoned players get sacks and get involved in the pass rush game. I do think 3 sacks in this game defensively is one thing that I can put my hat on and say, and take this check to the bank and cash it. I do think that will happen. Offensively, I'll do this quickly. I think TreVeyon Henderson has a big game. And I'm not normally one to go back and say the running back in this way based off the offense that Ryan Day calls and Ohio State runs. I think we're going to see more runs early with TreVeyon Henderson because no defense out there thinks that Ohio State's going to run the ball for 150 with their lead back. It's possible. You think it's more likely that they'll have 350 through the air, 3 or 4 touchdowns, with Stroud spreading the ball out very quickly and early. I think this is a game that to throw off the Wolverines' defense and for them to have a different approach very quickly than what they want with the Ohio State is Ohio State running the ball early. I've been saying it. There's been games I've been yelling it where Ohio State needs to run the ball more. I think this is a type of game where you alter and really just reverse your game plan. Pass heavy early? No. Let's go run heavy early, run to set up the pass. And then once you get up 10, 14 points, maybe 17 points, if it gets to that margin, then you may go back and say, well, here's what we can do now. We got a lead. How about we just extend it very quickly and then go back to the run? I do think TreVeyon Henderson on the ground, in the ground game, will be very, very huge for this game. We talk about the 2 defensive ends that Michigan has. If you want to slow those guys down, run the ball. It worked with George Karlaftis in ways where Ohio State ran right at him. The difference is If you run at one of the defensive ends that Michigan has, they got a guy on the backside that's just as good. So that's kind of the cat and mouse game, the chess game that's going to be played there. But Henderson on offense, Tyree Smith on defense, those are two kind of guarantees. Now, the one on offense is kind of a guess because Ryan Day normally doesn't run the ball that much with one guy. I do think this is kind of the game where you get Henderson more involved early to throw an added wrinkle to the Wolverines' approach to this game.
I would agree with you in the sense of I think that's if that's Ryan Day, if you're going to take a step back and go against type, that's how you're going to do it, right? Is I think TreVeyon Henderson's the one because he is the home run hitter. For me, I don't have a ton of very tangible ones because, like I said, I'm very much in wait and see. The one thing I do know is that there is no way, shape, or form in which Ohio State is going to, especially because I think C.J. Stroud resembles much closer to Dwayne Haskins than Justin Fields. I don't think that you're going to be able to sit back there and throw underneath crossing routes against this Michigan team. We've already seen Michigan has got a really good plan against Penn State. They tried this very last play of the game for Sean Clifford and company. They tried to run some underneath crossing routes. Interesting schematic wrinkle for Mike McDonald. He showed blitz with Mike Morris and Taylor Upshaw. They actually took a couple steps towards the line and then backed into coverage and completely negated the crossing routes. So I don't think that if I know that's not Ohio State's plan generally, they're trying to throw downfield, but if they do try to see like, all right, this has worked for us the last couple of years, let's try it again. I don't think that is going to work per se. Another thing that I'm pretty confident in is that Michigan is going to be using the running back pass game. They might even use it in lieu of the run. We've seen that a lot the last couple of weeks. Hassan Haskins leading in receiving aside from Eric All against Penn State. Donovan Edwards having the most receiving yards of any Michigan running back in history last week with 170 yards. I feel like they're setting that up. They tried to get it set up earlier in the year with Blake Corum. If Blake Corum didn't drop the ball in the second drive against Michigan State, that would have gone for a touchdown. They would have had a very commanding lead at that point. Didn't end up going that way. Dropped it again right before getting injured, maybe on the play he got injured against Indiana. That's going to be a key part of Michigan's game plan, I think. And I think that Michigan also is going to try to play keep away as much as possible against Ohio State. Both teams have to be very leery about red zone offense. Both teams have struggled when it comes to scoring touchdowns in the red zone. Ohio State more so against the tougher defenses they've played. Michigan wants to win this game. They need to force them into field goals. Michigan's had the same issue, but has cleaned that up the last 2.5 weeks or so. So it'll be interesting. So I think that pretty much covers it for now. I mean, we could talk for an hour, but obviously that's not what we do here. So anyway, for Jay Stevens over at Locked On Buckeyes, I am Isaiah Hole from Locked On Wolverines. We will be tuned in to you this week. Obviously, we've got our Friday shows coming up, and then obviously we'll also have our recaps and our reactions after the game. So stay tuned to that. Thank you for watching and or listening. We'll talk to you later. Peace.